In possibly one of the strangest years in the NFL since probably 2012 or 2008, the MVP debate is down between three people: Tyreek Hill, Brock Purdy, and Dak Prescott. Now, obviously, if the award doesn't go to either Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott, it has to go to Tyreek Hill, but I just want to make this video about Dak Prescott versus Brock Purdy. I'm seeing a lot of people put Dak Prescott ahead of Brock Purdy for NFL MVP after that win versus the Eagles last night, where the Cowboys absolutely demolished the Eagles 33-13. But in no world do I see Dak Prescott has been the better quarterback this season than Brock Purdy. All the arguments that I've seen that are proclaiming Dak Prescott to be the MVP over Brock Purdy are kind of absurd. And there's two main ones that I want to point out. First, there's the one about the weapons. The argument is that Dak Prescott only has CeeDee Lamb versus Brock Purdy, who has a plethora of weapons at his disposal. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, the list goes on and on and on. The second argument is that Brock Purdy is a yards after catch merchant. And those are two really good arguments, except for one problem with them. Everybody that's throwing those arguments out there never had that same energy, never had the same conversations about MVP whenever it was Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, or Tom Brady winning MVP, or even Peyton Manning. But no, only since it's a last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, a guy that does not have the physical stature or skill set that most other starting franchise QBs do, are these people making this argument for Brock Purdy not being the NFL MVP. But since these people want to go down that route, let's. Argument number one: Dak Prescott is the NFL's MVP over Brock Purdy because he doesn't have the same amount of weapons as Brock Purdy does. Dak has been great this year with CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, and company. Dak's third in yards with 3,505 yards, first in touchdowns with 28, and his QBR is second in the league with a 74.6 rating. Now, Brock Purdy's numbers with all his weapons: he's second in the league for passing yards with 3,553, second in the league with passing touchdowns with 25. He's only thrown one more pick than Dak Prescott, and he has a better quarterback rating than Dak Prescott with a 74.7. But here's the kicker: Dak Prescott's thrown 100 more passes than Brock Purdy has this season. If you average that out, that's about 2.5 games more of passing attempts than what Brock Purdy has had. Oh, and just for a little substance and context, no quarterback since Matt Ryan has made Kyle Shanahan's passing game look this good. Don't even get me started on efficiency numbers, because Brock Purdy pretty much is the most efficient quarterback in football right now. On top of the fact that Brock is set and scheduled and on track to have the best single season quarterback stats out of any 49ers quarterback ever. And that includes passing yards in a season, passing touchdowns in a season, touchdown to interception ratio, efficiency passing numbers. I can keep going with it. And now let's address the yak merchant claims. I'm sure that most of y'all, if you're on Twitter or somewhere on social media, saw that graphic floating around about the last 5 NFL MVPs. The last 4 or 5 NFL MVPs, all of their passing yards, at least 50% or more of them, came from yards after catch. And I'm sure if you wanted to dig further into those numbers, you'd find out that most NFL MVPs, a lot of their passing yards, over half of them come from yards after catch. But this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Only because this is Brock Purdy, a guy that's a 7th round draft pick, a guy that was the last pick in the draft, a guy that doesn't have all the physical tools that you look for in a franchise QB nowadays, is leading the race for the NFL MVP. Now, Dak Prescott could leapfrog Brock Purdy truly in the MVP race if he does one thing. He's got to come out and keep playing as well as he did last night versus the Eagles in his next 2 opponents, in the Bills and then against Miami. If he goes out there and has 7 touchdowns and no picks and over 500 yards in 2 games against those 2 teams, yeah, you could put him ahead of Brock Purdy in the MVP race, or at least have a legitimate conversation about it. But just because Dak Prescott is putting up career numbers against teams like the Patriots, the Jets, the Giants twice a year, and the Washington Commanders, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go over there and put him over a guy who has just been consistently better than he has been this year, ahead of him in the MVP race. Because if you want to break it down by schedules, I can. Because Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, they smashed the Jaguars. They smashed the Steelers. They smashed the Eagles. They decimated the Cowboys. And Brock Purdy in all those games was phenomenal. In all 4 of those games, he had never had 1 turnover. He had over 14 touchdowns and over 1,200 passing yards. Brock Purdy's been the more efficient quarterback than Dak Prescott. Brock Purdy has maximized his offense versus Dak Prescott. Brock Purdy's been the better quarterback when it comes to playing teams 500 or better. In head-to-head matchups, Brock Purdy was the superior quarterback to Dak Prescott in every facet. And as of right now, Brock Purdy is the NFL MVP. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And why? And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because I have plenty more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next one. Adios, mis amigos.